I welcome you all to today's event. We are remembering the feminist legend that is Begum Akhtar, Mallika-e Ghazal, whose voice echoes through the chambers of our hearts as a stern reminder of the power that music holds when it comes to soothing all grief that we carry within. Today we have with us Mr. Parnab Mukherjee, who has come all the way from Banaras to grace the occasion and perform a piece called Fragile, an unposted letter to Begum Akhtar. This performance has been inspired by Begum Akhtar's dear friend, the late poet Agha Shahid Ali. Before beginning today's Haazri, it's my and privilege to introduce Parnab, who is an independent media analyst, knowledge resource curator, and a performance consultant. He is an alternative theatre nomad and visual art curator as well. His main work has been on production pedagogy and the integration of newspaper, spoken word, non-partisan news, and exploring the interconnectivity of history, heritage, and social sciences. As a parallel curriculum designer, his methods stem from the idea and ideals of third theatre, practiced and chiseled by Badul Sharkar. As a journalist, he has extensively written on human rights, internal displacements, and the idea and notions of haves and have-nots and yet to be. His contributions have been published by The Spectator London, Penguin Poetry Anthology in Northeast India, and Montreal Sarai. We will be witnessing his performance of Fragile, an unposted letter to Begum Akhtar, which is inspired from the writings of Agha Shahid Ali. The performance is a play of one voice in the form of a letter. The letter as it is being written. The letter stops. The play is over. Yet, the letter lingers on in the poet's mindscape. This letter to an everlasting echo is almost a reflection and a refraction at the same time of a poet's understanding of the nuances and cadences of a voice. The voice of Begum Akhtar, a voice beyond the Tankari, reflecting the skewed social equity of our times. This one-voice play in the form of a letter is paced as an interior monologue of a poet searching for a punctuation in a ghazal. This performance letter to Begum Akhtar begins in 1971. At Pragati Maidan, New Delhi in 1971, at the time of the Bangladesh Liberation War, Agha Shahid Ali writes, "In New Delhi, one night, as Begum Akhtar sang, the lights went out. It was perhaps during the Bangladesh War, perhaps there were sirens, air raid warnings, but the audience hushed, did not stir. The microphone was dead, but she went on singing, and her voice was coming from far away, as if she had already died. A nuanced utterance, straight from the heart, a little crisscrossed. In this marketplace of ideas, the poet was a dreamer who turned the mundane into magic, but not some postponed escapist magic, but a palpable, tense, realistic kind. A magic that is conjured by a slew of factors, one being Begum Akhtar's voice. The ghazal, the sound of kikar, rustle of chinar, and the misplaced salt in the kava. He heard it all in the voice of Begum Akhtar. As he pens a never-to-be-posted letter, listening to a voice inside him that speaks gently but firmly, urges the poet not to return on the noise cancellation headset of our times, the poet writes, Ghazal, that death-sustaining widow, sobs in dingy archives hooked to you. She wears her grief, a moon-soaked white, corners the sky into disbelief. Begum Akhtar died on October 30th, 1974. Agha Shahid Ali was present in her funeral in Lucknow. Here is a performance of an imaginary unposted letter lying in the post times.
Do your finger still scale the hungry Bhairavi, or simply the mud of our times? Ghazal, that death-sustaining widow, sobs in dingy archives, hooked to you. She wears her grief, a moon-soaked, immersed, purged, the sky, the disbelief. You finally polished catastrophe. The whole you seasoned with decades of Ghalib, Mir, Faiz. I innovate a noteless raga. I was there, the third person you didn't see. October. Same date. Same time. Turbulent 70s. Begum Akhtar passed away. The photograph that you see in different websites, there are two people who got the news, came and walked towards that eternal echo. Aga Shahid Ali, Salim Kidwai. You didn't see me in the photograph. I was the third person, somewhere close by. I also heard the news. I didn't come with them, but I also came down. Came down and got lost in the echo of the voice and started writing a letter. Long time to write one. 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades, 6 decades, eternity. Long letter. Who'll read? But letter has one recipient. Your pen. Your cursor. Maybe nowadays your email, your PDF, or a word which I'm really confused about. Can you really attach a file? Can files ever be attached? So I wrote this long letter. Some of that will be shared with you today. The third poet, with the 2 other visible poets lurking outside or inside the horizon and writing a letter. And the letter says, why, who, what? How can a voice and a poet somewhere down the line not explain its relationship with each other? Aga Shahid Ali writes, I was attracted to a persona. I really can't explain that attraction. It wasn't sexual. It was just, I want to be around as an aura. Just being with the person wherever she goes. So here begins my letter. Dear future, I'm weaving a quilt. The quilt has the first layer. And then there'll be a second one, and the third one, and the fourth layer will be stitched together into a complete quilt, and you will put the quilt in your entire body, and somewhere down the line, in the heat of the summer, you will somehow take the quilt out, and in the heat of the winter, you will probably embrace it. So I begin writing my quilt, stitching words, the words on the tip of my tongue, the words lit up by the deep dark of the night. I'm an alter ego. I see in my writing countries without a post office. And when I start writing a letter, like a quilt, I have 4 questions to ask you. I don't know the answer. I'm searching for one. I'll exactly say the same thing to you a decade, a few decades, and a million decades later, because the answers won't be found. But the questions will be chiseled by time. Question number 1. What does it feel when gender comes into your voice and your pain is either entertainment or a mirror? To the murid or shagird, it's entertainment. To me, writing the unposted letter, it's a mirror. So when I sat with my Philips recorder in many of the Begum Akhtar concerts, close to Aga Shahid Ali, recording at that point of time, we didn't have copyleft and copyright and Creative Commons License 2.0, and recording a concert wasn't really so complicated as today. And I later heard the recordings. I didn't know I was hearing a reflection, or was I hearing a voice? Was I hearing pain, or was I hearing an adolescent giving birth to a person who has to be called her sister? I kept figuring out. At some point of time, you always realize in this cacophony of machine guns, ghazal is the self-sustaining widow. How does the cacophony sound? I'll give a small example to you. Today's times, let's imagine a machine gun. Let's imagine a tank. Let's imagine a cacophony of sounds somehow cascading down the Ukraine sky. Let's imagine in that complete cacophony of machine gun hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You tend to tell the nightingale, stop the song. Like the song being played before. You tend to find the pathos between the 2 lines of the song, between the words not uttered, because the machine gun is playing like this, almost on an incessant cacophony across the world. Hear the machine gun, hear the sound. Pair it up with a song. And let's find out, between the song and the machine gun, what am I searching? The country or the post office? Or the half-inch Himalaya in my palm? Or that incident when I got a call because the flight was cancelled? So, there came my Fiat, and I'm driving Begum Akhtar to buy her packet of Capstan. And coming back in my Rajbagh house, the Capstan is lit up, and the blue of the smoke and the incandescence of the face, and in that darkness between the capstan smoke and the face and the light and the evening of the night, you were always figuring out, am I looking at a ghazal or I always hear one? So each time there's a machine gun and a song, I always kind of keep deciphering. Am I hearing the pain? Or am I just hearing some verbal pyrotechnics, verbal gymnastics? Song number 2, the song that keeps playing. Let's try the song with the machine gun. The song wafting through your ears and the machine gun hitting your consciousness. You don't find it entertaining? Well, I also don't find wars entertaining. So I keep hearing the gun. So what do you hear? The song, the pain, the gender, the pathos, the marketing of the pain by biographers, your own understanding that you understand the nuances, forgetting the fact that from Shagird and from the Murid, voices can also become Murshid. No, what did you hear? Did you hear the song? Did you hear the pain? Did you hear the song and the pain talking to each other? Did you hear the words? Did you hear the occasional punctuation of the Maya? No, what did you hear? Hello, what have you heard over the years? Between the cacophony of the gun and the pathos of the pain, somewhere down the line, does the ghazal pierce the curfew? Somewhere down the line, is your mind so soaked with it that I have to keep asking the question, is ghazal a country without a post office? My question number 1. Can you heard the music when it was not sung? Or do you hear music only when you hear it? My first question in my letter. I don't know the answer. And I wouldn't like to know it only from a listener, because a listener doesn't listen. He's only hearing in our cacophony times. So I take my machine gun out I throw it in the echoes of time. And I come to my second question. Question number 2. Have you really understood that is heritage visual, tangible, or is it a feeling beyond tangibility? How do you figure out the heritage of the voice? I tried to figure it out in my letter. In my letter, which I'm writing, I tried to ask a question. My question number 2. Let me find the gun. Pick it up. Bring the gun closer to you. Fill some imaginary partitions. Look at some audience who's hearing but not listening, and listening but not hearing, or hearing and listening at the same time without prioritizing to listen to hear or to hear to listen. My second question, simple one, very, very fundamental. And the question goes something like this. Just tell me, when you watch heritage, when you hear heritage, when you feel heritage, when you touch heritage, do you frame the heritage amongst the conflict of the time that wants to museumize it? Heritage has to be preserved, not lived. Somewhere down the line, this could be indigo. This may not be Champaran. This could be indigo, but this may not be Gandhi. This could be Anokhi Fab India Ratan, but this may not be West Champaran or wearing a little Gandhi in your body. What do you do with the heritage? Do you eat it? Do you smell it? If you eat and smell it, then there were two pathos at play. Pathos number 1, a small child at 13 who is to be called a sister. Many, many miscarriages later, my song should suggest about my miscarriage. But let's not discuss it too much because it's anti-culture. Or for that matter, in that huge framework of things, in this huge amount of writing and documented output on Begum Akhtar, let's find a few chapters on Gyan Prakash Ghosh. Maybe missing. A forgotten centenary, that heart-wrenching music, and a composer sitting with Begum Akhtar trying to figure out where the voice cracks in the higher octave and how do you use the cracking voice, because it has to crack, because lives are cracked. I'm a friend of Aga Shahid Ali, or maybe I am. I really don't know. Theatre always has this implied and applied magic realism that attempts and then goes apart. So leave me. Let's talk about Gyan Prakash Ghosh. Let's talk about the song that you heard. Let's talk about the fact that in a moonlit night, the moon's missing because there's way too much of matter in the sky, and there's way too much matter in our brains, and there's way too much matter in our surnames, and there is way too much matter in the politics of the surname, and there is way too much matter in absolutely sanitizing art, because how else will you explain the fact that a Sadir didn't want to become Bharatanatyam. It wanted to remain Sadir. Just remain Sadir. It didn't want to come in the stage and spawn a bewitching sari industry and a subaltern fellowship regime of many PhDs on Devadasis, allowing them to die. What do you do when you breathe heritage? Do you walk in the bylanes of Varanasi and pretend that Dal Mandi did not exist? Do you keep on walking and pretend that when Dal Mandi gives way to Nai Sadak, and in the series of automobile repair shops, Dal Mandi remains your YouTube download nostalgia? Just that. And nothing more. My second question: when do you breathe heritage? Or do you breathe it ever? Question number one, just a quick recall. It's called CBSE. Recall number one, do you find the pain when the music's long over? Do you find the breath in the heritage? Question number three, there were these two poems. Let's juxtapose one after another. One by a man called Avtar Singh Sandhu, better known as Pash. Let's contort the poem a bit without distorting it. मेहनत की लूट सबसे खतरनाक नहीं होती, पुलिस की मार सबसे खतरनाक नहीं होती, गद्दारी लोभ की मुट्ठी सबसे खतरनाक नहीं होती, बैठे बिठाए पकड़े जाना बुरा तो है, किसी सहमी से चुप में जकड़ जाना बुरा तो है, लेकिन सबसे खतरनाक नहीं होता. Just a second. Before the next few lines, let me sanitize my hand. Words are already sanitized. I'm apolitical in political times. That's the safest thing to do. I'm not opening the tap. The water might fall in the floor. I'm miming the water. Sanitized. Completely. Like our arts. Apolitically political. मेहनत की लूट सबसे खतरनाक नहीं होती, पुलिस की मार सबसे खतरनाक नहीं होती, गद्दारी लोभ की मुट्ठी सबसे खतरनाक नहीं होती, बैठे बिठाए पकड़े जाना बुरा तो है, किसी सहमे से चुप में जकड़ जाना बुरा तो है, लेकिन सबसे खतरनाक नहीं होता. सबसे खतरनाक होता है घर से लौटकर ऑफिस जाना, ऑफिस से लौटकर घर आना. सबसे खतरनाक होता है हमारे सपनों का मर जाना. Juxtapose with one more poem. This is Pash. And let's take one more of Dhumil, Sudama Pandey. One of his last poems before he passed away. शब्द किस तरह कविता बनते हैं इसे देखो, अक्षरों के बीच गिरे हुए आदमी को पढ़ो. क्या तुमने सुना है ये लोहे की आवाज है या मिट्टी में गिरे हुए खून का रंग? लोहे का स्वाद लोहार से मत पूछो, उस घोड़े से पूछो जिसके मुंह में लगाम है. लोहे का स्वाद लोहार से मत पूछो, उस घोड़े से पूछो जिसके मुंह में लगाम है. Number 3. Question number 3 in my letter. 4 questions, don't worry. We'll finish the letter faster. Then we'll soak in art. Let's purge art a bit. Letter number 3. I called myself progressive. People said, are you leftist? I said, no, I'm leftover. Actually left behind. Sorry, left out. Oh, acha, you're not leftist. You're progressive but not leftist. Acha. Then yeah, are you an artist? I said, no. I'm trying to negotiate my terrain with art. Oh, are you a negotiator? No, I'm not negotiator. I'm trying to negotiate my negotiation. Oh, are you basically a television anchor? No, I'm not that. So what are you? I'm a letter writer who one day wishes that there'll be a huge hospital in a city where there won't be patients in the bed. The bed will have white bed sheets and retired machine guns on each bed sheets. And future generation of children will come in that huge hospital to know, here are the guns that died because the music played on. Because that music excavated those guns deep down from the killing fields, laid them out in the hospital and said, we've retired. We're dead. We'll never play again. Just wishful thinking. In that fragile cocoon of our mind, that hospital is not a reality. Satyajit Ray said, Begum Akhtar ji, can you sing the song live? She said, fine. He instructed Chobi Biswas to react to each line, not as an actor, but as a silence between the notes. He told Gangapada Boshu, who formed one of the greatest groups of our times, theatre groups of our times, to react to Chobi Biswas reacting to Begum Akhtar. So here is this Rajbari called Nimtita. Here is a film shooting called Jalshaghar. Here is a song that is wafting in. Here is a lady singing the song. Here is a man reacting to the words in between the lines. Here is another man reacting to that person reacting to words in between the lines. And here is Ustad Vilayat Khan ji standing at one corner, looking at all the reactions together. And here is a man on the Ariflex camera peeping into the entire plethora of drama on a decaying Rajbari playing itself out in this whole theatre of decay. In all that vortex, I kept thinking, here is a voice that doesn't talk about pain. It talks about decay. If you can't see the decay, hear the context. For heaven's sake, don't hear the song. For heaven's sake, don't give us your 700-page thesis of the song. For heaven's sake, don't explain to me what nukta is without a context. For heaven's sake, remember Faiz, थक जाएंगी तरसी हुई नाकाम निगाहें, थक जाएंगी तरसी हुई नाकाम निगाहें, छिन जाएंगे मुझसे मेरी आंसू मेरी आहें, छिन जाएंगे मुझसे मेरी बेकार जवानी, शायद मेरी उल्फत को याद करोगे. Hear the decay. Question number 3. Can you hear the decay? You can't hear the decay. Well, I'll make you hear it. It goes like this. Come. I'll show you how to hear the decay. You can look at it in different ways. The crack of the higher octave of Begum Akhtar's voice. The entire amazing bewilderment in Chobi Biswas's face. The novio-rich Gangapada Boshu telling the other Zamindar, your time is up. And in that whole theatre of dreams, there's playing out a theatre of decay. See Jalshaghar once more. And hear the context. I'm fairly sure you've heard the song. Decay sounds like this. First, a small partition. And then, the decay plays out like this. Make a Devadasi bill. Sanitize the kotha. Photograph the landscape. Put it in a sepia-tinted photograph in a museum. Forget the struggle. Make the past photoshopped. After that, add the few adjectives to say, oh my God, they were brilliant, but times changed. Make the art stage worthy. Make the clients neoliberal. Make the auditorium air conditioned. Make the audience rasikas, not believers. Sing the song. Sing it further. Soundless decay keeps playing. After a while, Rasulan Bai, the other voice who I wrote a poem on, apart from Begum Akhtar, shuts up. Can you hear the decay? Bad pronunciation. But decay is always bad. Question number 3. Can you hear the decay? Because she sang about a decaying time, not romantically, capturing the decay. Can you hear the sound of the decay? It's something like this. Throw your neoliberal facade in a beautiful trash can on Gmail. And let's look at the world like this and not unfailingly like this. Small cocoon of rasikas, forgetting the decay, forgetting the context, and just remembering the song. Killing the artist softly by museumizing the artist in one corner. Question number 3, can you hear the decay? One more question, and we'll come almost towards the end of the play. The last act is a little longer, but not too long. In short span of time, when one day theater will become WhatsApp, WhatsApp will become an app, the app will become a second, the second will become a nanosecond, and you and I will become the comma that you forgot to put in a sentence. Well, number 4. Number 4 of the letter. Almost writing. Page after page. Almost finishing. Repeating the line, microphone was dead, but she went on singing, and her mic and her voice was coming from far, as if she was already dead. And I moved the letters further, her picture, she smiles, she lights a capstan, sharp inner flame, her face dissolves in smoke. And then one more page, all blank, all empty, no words, no prompts. They're just blank sheets staring at my face. So, to cut a long story short, what's the 4th question? Just a second. The 4th question. Can you hear the sounds that were made, that entered the recording, yet you never heard the sound? Can you hear other sounds? Can you really hear other sounds? Sounds in between the song, that gasp, that breath, that slight heave and high, that extra comma, that extra full stop, that twitch in the lung, the one Lord Kumar Gandhar Gandharv, then deciding Devas how to punctuate Kavi. That extra song, that extra word, that lines in between the lines, when Gyanprakash Ghosh tells Begum Akhtar, stop here. I want the music to fade. I want the music to fade out. Can you really hear that? If you can't, your music was never this. Your music was never to be or not to be. Your music was just a tangled ball of listening pleasure. Your music was never a divine invocation, but just recording quality. So my letter almost finishes. I carry that unposted letter from one place to another. I keep moving. I cross boundaries. I catch on to trees. I move to mountains. I look at our spineless times, where a straight human body compromises a little more, compromises a little more, compromises a little more, and a little more, and a little more, and the basics keep getting changed till the compromise is almost a submission. I see this as a music without context. I didn't see your music without context. I saw it with the context of your gender. I saw it with the context of your struggle. I saw it in the context of silence in Lucknow. I saw your precondition being told you can sing for a radio. Music was this and never this. Mangled voices bent my compromise, which is why my performance is for you, and for all the lamps that will be lit up when the space will be sufficiently dark, because I see the lamps already lit up by the presence of your absence and the absence of your presence. As I carry generational angst in my shoulders, as I enter the last act of my drama, I hear one sound nobody hears about you. All your life, everybody made that sound near your ears. I, Aga Shahid Ali, or his alter ego, or a wannabe Aga Shahid Ali, trying to put a ghazal into word, a word into a play into a context into a text into a nothingness. I can always hear this sound that was played near your ears all your life. All your life, the sound played on. All your life, somebody brought it close by and played it near your ears. Call it experimental theatre, or give me any other moniker. If you didn't hear the sound, you didn't really hear her. You could be Murshid Murid Sajid. I'm not saying patriarchy. I'm not saying censorship. I'm not saying quota. I'm not saying Devadasi. I'm not saying heritage. I'm not saying words. I'm not saying petals. I'm not saying sound. I'm just saying this simple, fundamental, absolutely straight climb across the mountain with this sound that featured all your life wasn't really heard by anyone. So, what does a theatre actor do? He climbs down from his middle class adipose. He's gathering belly fat, his bigger ideological belly fat baggage. And he keeps this down as one more offering that doesn't go well with this decor, but that remained all your life. And then he strips himself naked. He takes out his context. He takes out his subtext. He takes it all out. And he pushes it behind. He lays it down. The machine gun, not so respectfully thrown away. The misplaced intellectual glasses firmly in place. Breathing through your feminist iconship, where other feminist conveniences kept your inconvenience as a matter for future biography. I, Aga Shahid Ali, kept a small shrine in my room. I kept multiple shrines in my room. In each of my shrine were my divine consciousnesses. Faiz, Mir, my father Aga Ashraf Saab, my mother Begum Akhtar, James Merrill. And today, the ghost of my Hamlet past comes back straight from that turbulent 70s and take the train from Delhi to Lucknow to once more come to your funeral. But then who said you died? I won't use the cliche, you're immortal. I'll use the cliche, you're palpable, you're present, you're visceral, you're physical. You and Gyan Prakash Ghosh is saying that the moonlit night somehow is not convinced everything is white. So I catch my ears and eyes and I finish with those lines of Uday Prakash. Sir is still alive, writing in Delhi. Fourth question. The fourth question is simple. Do you really hear? Do you really hear? So Uday Prakash writes, आदमी मर जाने के बाद कुछ नहीं बोलता. आदमी मर जाने के बाद कुछ नहीं बोलता. आदमी मर जाने के बाद कुछ नहीं सोचता. आदमी मर जाने के बाद कुछ नहीं बोलता. आदमी मर जाने के बाद कुछ नहीं सोचता. कुछ ना बोलने और कुछ ना सोचने पर आदमी मर जाता है. When a person dies, he doesn't really talk, he doesn't really dream. When a person dies, he doesn't really enunciate. When he doesn't talk, and he doesn't dream, and he doesn't enunciate, he is living dead. Thank you, Begum Akhtar ji, for being alive in my immediate circle of living dead. With or without these flowers, I shall carry the lines of Aga Shahid Ali. If I am not him, and some bhautik future version of him, to this edifice of stone. And imagine that all the power cut, the light, the total darkness has descended in this edifice. And with a red lipstick, a hazy blue of the sky, I sang the moonlight. Didn't write it in my private diary. I burped the moonlight and I vomited the moonlight, and the pathos of missing the moonlight really got caught in my voice. Catch that. For once, postpone the nukta and get the context. What is pain? What is heritage? What is decay? Can you really hear my lessons from your life? Thank you for asking those questions. I won't answer it. But isn't life about asking the right question, then downloading the correct answer? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Parnab, for that wonderful performance. And it really was very thought-evoking. And I can speak on behalf of all of us present here. We are very thankful for your presence here today, and thank you for sharing your insights. And that was a wonderful trip inside your mind, and the way you remember Begum Akhtar. And we are grateful that we got to experience that.